Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be She's Giving Mixed Signals. Well, I've got an email. This guy is, I assume he's in college, so he's probably early 20s. And you can tell he's a shy guy, doesn't really have a lot of interactions with girls. But in his drama class, he started talking to one of the girls in his class about this play that I guess was coming to town or they were going to be performing. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go see this, or I'm thinking about checking this out. And she said, oh, we should go together. So she suggested a date, and they went. They had a good time. And then about like a month later, he works up the courage to call her and ask her out on an actual official date, if you will. She seemed excited. They went out and started to have a good time. And then at some point, he put his arm around her, and you can just kind of get the picture of how us guys tended to be like in middle school or high school when we go out on our first date and we're trying to slyly put our arm around a girl. And that was the vision I get as I read his email, that he was doing that. And he said it didn't get received too well. And then when he goes to say goodbye, he gives her a hug, and it wasn't a good vibe at the end. But he called her like a week later, tried to set a second date. She seemed enthusiastic to talk to him, and then when he started trying to make the plans, she just completely ignored him and ghosted him. So obviously he wants me to critique his email and see what he did right or what he did wrong, what he can do differently. And he's learning, so he's obviously new to 3% Man. And hey, everybody starts out as a beginner. Everybody starts out as a novice. And so when I read emails like this, it reminds me of when I was younger, didn't know any better. And this is kind of like a rite of passage. So every guy's going to have to go through things like this to grow his confidence, to learn what he's doing. And so we can all feel for this guy because, all of us have been there at some point or will be there if you're a young guy watching this. So he says, hey, Coach, I met this girl at drama school in January of 2023, and we connected. She'd always be looking in my direction in every class, and I could just feel her energy. Hey, attraction is not a choice. Women know within 2-3 seconds if they would date you and sleep with you. And the reality is, and what's kind of interesting when you study it, is that we tend to be attracted to other people that have the same facial structure, same facial shape as we do. Eyes, nose, mouth. It's really fascinating when you look at couples that are together and how similar their facial structures are. So, the reality is, if you're decently fit and in shape, there are girls that are out there that you're just going to do it for them for whatever reason. And what you find as being beautiful, somebody else might be like, it doesn't do anything for me. But, because I get emails all the time from guys, and they're like, I met the most beautiful woman in the world. She's the hottest girl I've ever seen. I see a picture. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, doesn't do anything for me, but hey, man, I'm happy for you. And other guys are like, my girl's a smoke show. I'm like, totally. So, it really is in the eyes of the beholder, and something that's hard, especially when you don't know any better and you're younger, especially if you have a negative mindset where you just presuppose things aren't going to work out for you, or women that you like are not going to be into you. The reality is most of them are not, but some of them will. And so this girl was definitely interested in this guy because he passed her physical attraction test, but the number one most important thing to women in a relationship for guys is they want a guy that's got confidence. And so if you're constantly communicating that you lack confidence, you can only do that so much without recovering and doing enough other things that communicate you do have confidence in displaying attractive behavior before she gets turned off and loses romantic interest and attraction, or her feelings just get to the point where she feels platonic friendship for you. So he says, one day after class, she and I got in the underground tube together, and I told her about a play that looked great, and she initiated going with me before I even asked. And to be honest, I wasn't going to ask because I've always had insecurities and a lack of confidence. Well, women help you when they like you. And so you're in a drama class together, so you have similar interests. So it makes it easy to talk to people, because I go through this all the time, especially guys like, how do I meet girls? Lose yourself in your hobbies and your interests and your passions and the things that you love. So here's this guy, he's taking a drama class, and obviously he's interested in plays, and the girl, she's also interested in the same things, and he's just having a casual conversation, and she comes right out and says, hey, we should go to that together. And that's typically the kind of thing that women will do. They help you when they like you. They make it obvious that they're interested. But at the end of the day, you still got to be the man. You still got to set the date, be direct, be decisive, definite day, definite time, definite place to get together. And so he didn't have to do anything. He just showed up. He's living his life. He's enjoying his drama class. And then some cute girl likes him. And he starts talking to her one day on the way home. Turns out she's down to go to the same thing he's down to go to. Why? People who like the same things tend to like each other. So it's common sense, but most people don't really think of these things. But this is typically how most people meet the person that they're dating or in a relationship with. It just kind of happens as a side effect of living your best life, doing things you love and enjoy for fun. In this case, he's in school. Anyways, we went to watch the play and the vibes were good. And after the play was done, I offered her a ride home, but she said she wanted to get the bus. He says we parted ways. Well, I definitely would have gone for the kiss, but again, he's young. And it's like, I know you're trying to work up your courage because you don't want to get rejected, especially if there's lots of people around. When you get older and you have more experience, it's not a big deal. You kiss her right in front of everybody. And it's, if you're using the kiss test, then you're not going to get rejected. He says, in a class a few days later, she was bantering with me and jokingly hitting me in the stomach, and we would play fight with each other. So she still seems to be interested at that point. He says, our term was finished, and we ended up going into different classes. About a month later, I gathered up the courage to call her and ask her out on a date. So even though it's a whole month goes by, he's like, hey, I'm going to shoot my shot, see what happens. She happily accepted and gave me 2 options on days that she was available. So in other words, she was very enthusiastic. He says, we met on Sunday afternoon and went to an exhibition. Then we went for a drink and a meal afterwards. I was nervous as shit, and I know she felt my nervous energy. Well, the nervousness is obviously communicating a lack of confidence. And so it's important that you don't say things and point out and be obvious that you lack the confidence, because now you're giving her reasons to notice your unattractive behavior. And you're trying to present your best side to the world and to her instead of your worst side, instead of saying, in essence, hey, here's all my flaws. I don't have any confidence at all. When we got to the second part of the date, I started to loosen up and we started to have a good laugh with each other. And when we went to dinner, we had a good laugh. And I told her she was stunning and she started to blush, I think. He says, anyways, we left the restaurant and I started to put my arm around her and it didn't seem like she was open to me. So I walked her to the bus stop, we hugged, but it was like she was closed off from me. Afterward, I texted her to make sure she got home safe and she texted back the next day saying she had a good time and would like to do it again. I typically wouldn't be sending, hey, hope you got home safe, those kinds of things. It's just a nice guy thing, and besides, she was a cold fish at the end, so that's the kind of thing that's going to make me have pause and go, especially if I'm going for the kiss and I get a cheek, or if I put my arm around her, if she's bumped. Because the other thing is you should be putting your arm around her when she's physically bumping into you and standing too close. And if she wasn't doing that and then you put your arm around her, yeah, it's understandable that it would be awkward, but this is why you should read the book 10 to 15 times. So you learn these little subtle nuances of what to look for. After a few days, her text messages started to go from her texting me in a day to 3 days later and then a week. Yeah, so the interest is going the wrong way. And so whatever your vibe was, whatever you were saying and doing on that date, her interest went the wrong way. He says, after that, I was scratching my head in confusion, and that led me to buy your book, How to Be a 3% Man, and I couldn't believe how much I messed up on this date. Well, it's the pain of recognizing that you messed up is what causes you to recognize, I got to change my approach and read the book. He says, anyways, I didn't call or text her for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later, she messaged me a picture of food saying, we need to get this soon. And I replied, yes, let's do it. She did not reply. Well, you should have said, yeah, when are you available? He says, so a week later, I text saying, let's go get food. And she said, oh my God, yes, I'm available either Monday or next Saturday. So I said, how's next Saturday, 7:30? And she didn't reply for 3 days. And when she finally did, she tried to change it to the day. So I replied, I made plans for Saturday because I wasn't sure if we were meeting or not, but next time, definitely. He says, but the reality, I hadn't made any plans. I was just trying to let her know that my time is valuable, just as you mentioned in your book. Yeah, if she's waiting 3 days to reply to you, that's communicating that you're really not that high of a priority to her. And if she's really pretty, more than likely there's other guys. And if those other guys she's going out with are expressing more confidence, and you're doing and saying things on your date, and you're being sloppy in your approach and trying to make a date, and because it doesn't look like you were direct and decisive and made a date, you kind of just left things up in the air. But the fact that she waited 3 days to reply to you it's not good. It shows that, because in the beginning she was very enthusiastic, and now she's waiting 3 days to reply. So instead of her interest going up or her romantic attraction going up, it's been going down. And obviously he read the book after all this happened. He's like, wow, I messed up a lot. But the good news is he's got the book. And so he learns from this. And these painful lessons are the kind of thing that you go, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to get involved with somebody that behaves this way or acts that way. Or I'm not going to put my arm around a girl when she's not anywhere near me or not even touching me. And more than likely, maybe he talked a lot and said a lot of weird, awkward things on the date. Because, again, he hadn't read my book before he went on it. And so there's a whole host. He probably did everything wrong you could possibly do wrong, just because I know what it's like. That's how you learn these things. That's why I was able to pull out stuff in the book, because I went through all this. And the idea is, for a young guy like him, is to learn from these mistakes so he can gradually, or I should say dramatically, cut down his learning curve. Things that took me 10, 15, 20 years to figure out, he can learn when he's in high school. And just be way further ahead of where, see, that's why you got guys that are 18, 19, 20 years old learn things and become as competent as I was when I was 31, 32, when things really started to click for me. He says, so a week later, I messaged her a video of myself eating the food she loves, and I said, let's get some together. And she said, oh my God, yes, you look good in the video, by the way. And I said, thanks, and so do you as always. I said, I'm available Saturday evening and Sunday. She ignored my messages and hasn't responded since. Bear in mind, I've only read 3% Man once, so I need to reread it. Well, she hasn't replied. I wouldn't reach out or text her again, but obviously every time you go through the book, you're like, you're probably doing some face palms, like, I did that. But, I mean, as you see, if a girl really likes you, there's only so many mistakes you can make. There's only so many things that you can say that are unattractive that turn her off to the point where she's like, I'm out. And that's going to happen. And you have to get over it and just say, you got to give yourself permission to fail, I should say. And you got to understand that failure is a part of life. This is how you learn. This is the process. You have to go through the process. You can't avoid the process. So embrace it. Be excited about it. Be bewildered. Be grateful for the experience that you had with this girl, because if you hadn't blown things with her, you probably wouldn't even have picked the book up. And maybe it would have taken you a lot longer. But at the end of the day, you get burned, you have emotional pain, and you recognize, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. Because if I continue to do what I've always done, I'll continue to get what I've always got. So, hey man, at least you had a date. It's something you were very shy, and then you went out on the date, you made some progress, you learned a bunch of things. Now you've come across my work, you're reading it, you're learning it. So the next time you go out on a date, you'll be better. You'll get further along. Maybe you'll get kissy poo. Maybe you'll seduce the next girl that you go out with. Maybe the next girl you go out with ends up becoming your first girlfriend or whatever. You never know. Or maybe it's the 5th one or the 10th one or the 20th one. It's like whatever it happens to be, is like you got to get through the no's in order to get to the yeses. So if you got a question or challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.